"Dear, makeup will only spoil you. You don't need to wear it," she said, my mother saying softly, standing next to me near the mirror. "No, makeup only accentuates my beauty," I objected. "And I think it spoils it. You should listen to me. I am your mom." Mom couldn't help it and grabbed my lipstick out of my hand. "You don't get it." My behavior made my mother absolutely furious. She walked out of the room saying I was grounded for a whole week. "You'll know how to cross grown-ups," she said before she slammed the door. I just laughed. I heard all those threats 100 times before. I was so tired of fighting with my mother. She's my closest person. She's supposed to love me and support me in everything, but instead all she does is make my life miserable. Just a few weeks ago, she gave away all my brand-named clothes to an orphanage. And 3 months ago, she ruined my hair by changing my shampoo. My hair got thin and it started falling out, and I should always look perfect. Because at 17, I work as a model. You can see my photos on the front page of fashion magazines. I've done commercials and music videos, but I didn't get a lot of satisfaction from my fame. I felt lonely. My mother didn't support me, and she constantly scolded me. In her opinion, I should have thought about my studies, not my career. My name is Courtney, and my mother is angry about my modeling appearance. Our confrontation often reached the point of absurdity. My mother wouldn't tell me about new job offers if she found out about them first. My agent often criticized me for refusing to star in a cool magazine or to take part in a fashion show. And I, at that time, didn't even know about any offers. Because of the frequent refusals, everyone thought I was arrogant. Agents refused to work with me, and my mother thought there was no problem. "Courtney, I'm thinking about you and your future. Only young girls can be models, and who's gonna want you at 40? Study, get an education. That's what's going to feed you in your old age." My mother kept telling me the same thing. But I don't understand how she could be so ignorant. Her words hurt me. Suddenly, I didn't like the way I looked anymore. I cried all day long, thinking that I was worthless. Maybe, somewhere deep down, I knew my mother was wrong. But in those moments, my brain would shut down, and I started to believe that I had no future. When my mother once again punished me for no reason, I stormed out of the room and screamed at her, "You're just jealous of me! How dare you talk to your mother like that? Don't you dare raise your voice at me!" Mom was taken aback. "You are the worst mother in the world!" Mom immediately grabbed her heart. She clutched at her heart and sank to the couch. "My heart," she whispered. "It's hurting so much." "Oh, Mom, stop acting. I've seen this sketch before." A few years ago, after another quarrel, she told me with a sorrowful look that the doctors had discovered she had a serious heart ailment. Now it is not good for her to be nervous because at any moment her heart may fail and my mother will die. I, a naive soul, fell for this story and was terribly frightened. I fulfilled all the desires and whims of my mother. I put myself and my needs and desires aside, just so that she wouldn't stress. And then I realized that she didn't have a heart disease. Mom had invented it to make it easier for her to get her way. So this time, I walked past the couch and headed into the kitchen to get something to eat. However, when I returned to the living room, I dropped my plate and cup from my hands. Mom was white as chalk and breathing very weakly. Without wasting a moment, I immediately dialed 911. The doctors took Mom to the hospital. On the way, they said that if it had been just a few more minutes, they wouldn't have been able to save my mother. When I heard that, I cried. All because of me. Mommy almost died because I didn't believe her. What kind of a daughter am I? I'm a soulless monster. When we got to the hospital, they told me to wait in the waiting room. The time seemed unimaginably slow. And as luck would have it, I got a call from a new agent who offered me a very lucrative contract. $20,000 for a fashion show and a commercial shoot. I had to come to the office right now. The brand was choosing between 2 models and wanted to make a decision today. But at that moment, I couldn't think about money and work. After all, my mother was on the brink of life and death. You have a lot to lose. Courtney, come to your senses. This is your chance to be really famous. You may never get an offer like that again. The agent was trying to convince me. I thought about it. On the one hand, I could say yes, drive quickly to the office and return. They wouldn't let me in the room with my mom yet anyway. And on the other hand, it would probably be mean to just leave while my mom is laying there alone. And the doctors are desperately fighting for her life. But the money I would make could come in handy for her treatment. Okay, I'll do it, I replied, thinking that nothing bad would happen. But I wish I hadn't. When I was done with work and returned to the hospital, the doctors told me my mother had gotten worse. She really wanted to see me, but I had disappeared. That made her very upset and her condition worsened. Oh no, what have I done? I had tears streaming down my cheeks. I literally hated myself at that moment. The doctor gave me a sedative and let me go into the room for a while. I went in dragging my weak legs. I was horrified to see my mother. She was so pale and frail. When my mother saw me, she smiled faintly and called me to her. Dear, where have you been? I'm sorry, Mommy. I was called to work urgently. I didn't think that you would be so upset about it, I explained by taking her hand. That's all right. Work has always been important to you, but not more important than you, Mom. I love you and I want you to get well. I'll get better faster if you're there with me. Pay attention to your mother, not your work. I was willing to do anything, as long as she would get better and come home. I spent all my time at the hospital, bringing my mother goodies and clean clothes, while turning down lucrative new contracts. I even had to turn down $1 million contract. Compared to my beloved mother's health, it all became meaningless. But the agents didn't like my rejection. Not only did I lose $1 million, I was blacklisted by a lot of fashion houses for a year. My career was hanging by a thread, but all I could think about was my mom. I could see that she was on the mend and how happy she was to have me around to take care of her. That's when I realized there's nothing more important than family. If only I had known the truth. One day, I arrived at the hospital a little earlier than usual. The door to the room was ajar. I heard my mother and the doctor talking and decided to not go in until they were finished so as not to disturb them. It was from their conversation that I realized that all this time my mother had been lying to me. Yes, my mom did have a bad heart condition at the time, but it wasn't a serious heart attack, let alone an incurable disease. She paid the doctor to keep her in the hospital as long as possible to scare the hell out of me. By the way, she used my money to pay for this scam since she hasn't worked in years, and I was the sole breadwinner in our family. I earn money thanks to my looks, and my mother's using it to ruin me. But for what? Why is it so important to her that I quit modeling? I didn't wait for the doctor to leave the room. I stormed in there and told her what I thought. I lost $1 million contract because of you. Oh, sweetheart, don't talk to me like that. Yes, miss, you should change your tone. Your mother could get worse. The doctor stepped in for Mom. Stop lying. I heard everything. You were in it together. You manipulated me so I wouldn't model anymore. What's wrong with you, Mom? You live off me. You don't deny yourself anything, and you're not happy about it. I hate you. I ran out the room, slamming the door loudly. I didn't care that I may have hurt my mother. It was all her fault. All she knows how to do is lie, manipulate, and humiliate me all the time. I didn't want to see her, much less live under the same roof with her, so I quickly packed my things and went to my grandmother's house. She sat me down at the table, poured me some strong tea, and then asked me sympathetically, Courtney, what happened? Did you have a quarrel with your mother? I told her everything and added that I will never come back home again because I don't want to live with a liar like that anymore. Grandma shook her head. Believe me, your mother has her reasons for acting that way. She told me that when she was young, my mother was as beautiful as I am. Many fashion magazines wanted to work with her, but my grandmother was against it. My grandmother wanted to see her daughter as a famous lawyer, not a careless girl walking half naked down the runway. They argued for a long time. And in the end, my grandmother made a condition to my mother that if she pursued a modeling career, she would lose her enormous inheritance of $1 million. And if she agreed to go to law school, she'd get that $1 million right away. The money went to my mother's head, and she gave up her modeling career. Except my grandmother didn't have any inheritance. She lied to my mother to get what she wanted. She's just jealous of you. She doesn't want you to be what she wanted to be when she was young. What is wrong with all of you? Why would you do that to your children's lives? I got angry. I didn't expect to hear my grandmother say that. She always seemed so kind and fair to me, but what she did was even worse than what my mother did. After that story, I felt sorry for my mother because all this time she was unhappy because of the wrong choices she'd made. I got back home. My mother had already come home from the hospital and came out to meet me as soon as she heard me open the front door. I threw my bags on the floor and hurried to hug the dearest person in my life. I know everything, Mom. Grandma did a very bad thing to you, but please don't do the same to me. Mom hugged me back and she cried. She was ashamed of her behavior. I am such a fool, my daughter. I am a bad mother. I was jealous of you, trying to ruin your looks and your career when I should have been happy to have such a beautiful daughter. Forgive me if you can. After that, our life got better. My mother no longer hindered my career. She's even been very helpful and supportive in every way. And I'm sure I'll become a top model very soon. Do your parents support you? Write your answers in the comments, like the video, and share it with your friends.